Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. If you've even just glanced at the news today, May 20th, 2026, you've probably felt like the world is spinning just a little bit faster than usual. We've just finished analyzing a massive daily bulletin of exactly 100 global headlines. And frankly, it is a lot to process. But don't worry, that's exactly why we're here. We're going to take all this chaos and synthesize it into clear, easy-to-understand macro trends, breaking down a world that's currently suspended right between intense global tension and incredible human transition.
And rest assured, we've already combed through all 100 of those stories, so you don't have to. Here is our roadmap for making sense of it all today. Number 1, climate and health extremes. 2, global economy under pressure. 3, diplomacy and a shifting world. 4, the AI and tech boom. And finally, 5, sports and media pulse.
Let's dive right into Section 1, Climate Extremes and Health Alerts. We talk a lot about abstract climate concepts, but right now, it's turning into a visceral, immediate reality. And honestly, the most alarming thing today is that number right there, 45 degrees Celsius. A really severe heat wave is baking North India right now, pushing temperatures well above that 45-degree mark. The India Meteorological Department is blasting out strict public safety alerts across Delhi, UP, and Rajasthan. And we're seeing immediate real-world consequences from this, right? Massive spikes in power demands as people desperately try to stay cool, and some pretty tragic reports of these temperatures actively destroying regional crops.
And compounding that climate stress is a major global health alert. The World Health Organization just declared Ebola a global health emergency. Now, this isn't just a localized issue anymore. It's prompted immediate worldwide coordination. Public health agencies everywhere are on high alert, and over in India specifically, the health ministry is rapidly ramping up airport surveillance and reviewing all of their preparedness protocols.
So we're watching these massive global events cascade directly into our daily routines. It's like a domino effect on local infrastructure. Because of the heat wave, we've got power grids maxing out and water conservation alerts expanding across the hardest-hit regions. Schools are literally dedicating morning assemblies to hydration advisories and keeping kids inside. And on top of that, international travel is facing huge disruptions from the health alerts, while local tourism in northern India is taking an absolute beating because it's just too hot to be outside. The environment is really dictating human movement right now.
Okay, moving on to Section 2, Global Economy Under Pressure.
So it's not just the climate heating up. Geopolitical anxieties are sending actual shock waves through global markets, creating this massive economic domino effect. Let's walk through it. Step 1. Tensions in the Middle East escalate. Step 2. That directly leads to major bottlenecks and disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. Step 3. Because those vital shipping routes are compromised, shipping insurance costs go through the roof globally and oil prices surge. And finally, Step 4. All of that trickles down directly to your wallet, driving up global inflation. It is a textbook chain reaction showing exactly how a localized conflict hits fuel and grocery prices all over the world. To really understand the sheer scale of this economic pressure, just look at this figure. The United Nations just slashed its global economic growth forecast for 2026 to a really sluggish 2.5%. Because of this warning, global recession fears are definitely creeping up, right alongside weakening business confidence. And adding to that pretty grim picture, global inflation is forecast to hit 3.9% this year. But the absolute most crucial takeaway here? This pain is not being distributed equally. Developing nations and economies that rely on importing oil are facing by far the highest risks. Energy markets are incredibly volatile right now, and the pressure on everyday logistics is just intense. So the big question is, how are nations actually weathering this storm? Well, India's chief economic advisor recently warned that the country's economy is facing a balance of payments stress test. But, the data also shows some really proactive maneuvering. India is actively preparing alternative crude oil transport routes to bypass the Hormuz bottlenecks altogether. So despite all these global slowdown fears, the nation is actually expected to remain comparatively stable and resilient. Which leads us to a really vital narrative pivot. We've talked about disease, we've talked about extreme heat and a stressed-out economy, but how is the global community actually responding to all these compounding crises? Because spoiler alert, they're definitely not just sitting still.
Let's get into Section 3, Diplomacy in a Shifting World.
Right now, proactive diplomacy is pretty much our primary defense against these global pressures. Take PM Modi, for instance. He's on the final leg of this huge 5-nation diplomatic tour, and the focus is incredibly forward-looking. We're talking deep cooperation with Nordic nations on green tech, 6G networks, STEM research, and even the Arctic. Over in Rome, the focus shifts to strategic trade, while in the Indo-Pacific, they're laser-focused on strengthening the blue economy. These aren't just handshakes. Nations are actively forging these alliances to lock down the future of technology and sustainability.
And a really standout moment from all these diplomatic efforts was PM Modi receiving the FAO Agricola Medal specifically for his global food security efforts. Now, why does this matter so much right now? Well, with supply chain chaos, wildly high fertilizer prices, and those heat-damaged crops we talked about earlier, international food security has absolutely become an urgent, top-tier diplomatic priority.
So what we're really looking at is a world in total duality. On one side, yes, we have a grim economic reality. Inflation fears, rising costs, volatile energy. But on the exact opposite side, we are seeing this explosive, incredibly optimistic surge in human innovation. We're talking massive green tech investments, global AI summits, and groundbreaking 6G partnerships spreading like wildfire.
Which brings us to Section 4, the AI and tech boom.
The world isn't just bracing for impact, it is aggressively adapting. AI and 6G, they aren't just buzzwords anymore. They are the key economic drivers of tomorrow. The India AI Impact Summit, happening right now at Bharat Mandapam, is drawing massive global attention and investment dollars. Green tech startups are becoming top priorities worldwide. And what's really great to see is that business leaders aren't just building this tech blindly. They are actively sitting down to hash out ethical AI frameworks and figure out how to manage the huge workforce transformations this tech is absolutely going to bring.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, Sports and Media Trends.
Because, hey, even amidst geopolitical tension and a technological revolution, culture never stops. Here are your rapid-fire quick hits. Geopolitics is actually bleeding into sports, with India's women's junior handball team currently stuck waiting on clearance to play in the World Championship in China. Meanwhile, cricket is absolutely crushing viewership numbers, which honestly is probably because that insane 45-degree heat wave has canceled outdoor summer camps and driven millions of fans indoors to their screens. On those screens, Indian streaming content is capturing huge international audiences, with shows like Dhurandhar: The Revenge trending globally. And bringing it all the way back to tech, AI tools are now being heavily utilized by digital creators in their everyday media production. The future is literally already here.
Wow. We have covered a staggering amount of ground today, pulling from 100 different storylines that are defining May 20th, 2026. From 45-degree heat waves and economic bottlenecks, all the way to next-generation 6G networks and massive global alliances. And I think it leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question to chew on. In a world defined by both severe compounding crises and completely unprecedented human innovation, which force is ultimately going to shape our future? Thank you so much for joining today's Explainer, and as always, stay curious out there.